Hi, I'm Jay with Oakwood Veneer, and in this segment we're going to talk about using pressure-sensitive veneer. Pressure-sensitive veneer is basically a face. It has a 10 mil paper back adhered to the veneer, just like our standard 10 mil paper back, and then we apply a pressure-sensitive adhesive to it. And the benefit to using the pressure-sensitive veneer is that you don't need necessarily to use any extra adhesives, providing you have a very smooth substrate. And when I say that, a smooth substrate, I'm referring to things like refacing kitchen cabinets, veneering over a laminated surface. You can literally adhere this material to plastic, metal, and glass. Although you have to be careful when applying it to glass because of the pressure. But it will stick very, very well to those substrates. When you're doing new work on new board, and in this case I have a piece of MDF here, there's a little trick that you can do to use this veneer using a waterborne contact cement. And we talked a little bit about waterborne versus solvent-based contact cement in a previous episode. And the waterborne contact cements, what it actually acts as is a sealer, because the board itself is somewhat porous. And with this adhesive, it will seal those pores up. And you could do the same thing on a tight grain type plywood, where you can seal the surface up, and then this veneer will become very, very effective. It can also be used in refacing applications where you're going over a substrate, let's say with oak. Because of the grains and pores of oak, sometimes you don't get the perfect bond in that particular wood. So what this adhesive will do is will fill in those depressions where the grain is in the wood slightly and allow you to veneer over the top of it. And basically, just as applying the solvent-based contact cement, short nap mohair roller, and then you'll apply the adhesive to the MDF. And we're going to apply, just as we did before, we're going to apply a coat covering in one direction and then come back and go in the other direction to make sure that we get 100% coverage. And then once this tacks up, we'll be able to apply our PSA veneer and get a very, very good bond. We're back, and we're going to apply our pressure-sensitive veneer to our prepped substrate. And just as with the other contact types adhesives, we want to check it and make sure that it's tacked up well. And then with the PSA veneer, a good idea to do before you pull the release paper off is to just go over that PSA backer to make sure that you have a perfect bond to that backer itself. When it's processed and run through the machine, there's a lot of pressure applied, but over time, that can be affected by the veneer moving if it's sitting around too long. So I just like to go over a little bit before I pull the release paper off. And now we'll grab the release paper and lift it off, and you can see by the sheen, there's no imperfections in the bond of the adhesive to the paper. And just as before, I want to try to align this best to one edge. This piece is a little larger than I put adhesive down for, but you'll see that it works well. And again, I'm starting, in this case, one edge outward to the other, applying pressure from the center outward, and then again using our scraping tool. And you don't have to go out and buy a specialized scraping tool like this. You can use any block of wood that you have handy, preferably something smooth grained that can't mar the wood, all the way up to, and I've used it more than once, piece of a 2x4, and you want to cut it about 16 or so inches so you can handle it and sand a very, very slight radius on it, and you can use it to smooth the veneer out. You can get a lot of pressure on it. So we'll continue on with our scraper. And I'm working from the center outward to the edge. And I'm going to come around and do the same thing on the other side. And because this is a new board that we've used the waterborne PSA, and the reason we use a waterborne versus a solvent base is the water-based adhesive won't react to the PSA backer and cause you problems there. And again, once you have it sufficiently burnished down, we have a permanent bond. It's also a good idea before you finish your veneers, whether it be using the solvent-based contact cement or using the PSA with the water-based contact cement, is let the veneer rest for a day. And that way you will find if there are any issues, such as edges that aren't quite sealed down or any slight bubbles that might be in the surface that didn't settle out when you burnished them down. That way you can deal with them then before you actually get a finish on it and where you have real problems. But generally speaking, if you get a bubble on it, the glues don't cure 100% for a couple days, so you can work those bubbles out. If you get a bubble that's a pressure bubble, you can put a very, very slight cut along the grain line so the air has somewhere to go and burnish it back down, and you're good to go.